All right, so for the first time in several years, I'm starting to read some negative headlines about real estate. For I don't know what it is, 36, 40 months, all the articles have been positive, right? Talking about appreciation and just all things good real estate. And for the last couple of days, I'm starting to read some negative trends. People talking about cracks in the real estate market, and all these really scary headlines. So I thought I would just take a minute and remind all of us of a couple of things, because as been said on this channel many times, right? Sellers markets eventually become buyers markets, and that shift can be violent as it was in '06, or it can be sort of smooth and just sort of go that direction, which is I think what we're heading for here, or is on the horizon for sure. So let's just talk about it and make sure we're all on the same page. So always going through the goals. So we're going to review some of the headlines, sort of deconstruct them, give you my opinion on them, just to sort of break them down. We'll then talk about the emotions behind some of those headlines, and then talk about how you can use them to your advantage if you choose to. All right, so just some of the headlines I've seen. First and foremost, one talking about existing home sales down X%, and I've seen numbers anywhere from a couple of percentage points to when they get local markets like LA or Bay Area, they're talking double digits, and oh my gosh, it's the sky is falling. But when you sort of step back and look at the numbers, right, percentages may appear scary, but there's really more, as there often is, behind that story, right? Inventory is still ridiculously tight. Affordability obviously is low. Interest rates are up. There's probably good reasons for them to be down. One of the things I think I wrote about or saw the other day is, prices might be up 9% or something, but payments are up 25%. And that's the real problem, right? People typically buy houses thinking about the monthly payment. And if the price has gone up and the interest rates got up, that's going to hurt lots of folks. And frankly, I think that's why a lot of folks won't leave once they've bought something, because they're locked into low interest rates, and we're in an interest rate rising environment. So just know there's numbers behind them. Interestingly enough, they also talk about new home sales are down. Again, there's always a story behind that. First off, we're not building a ton, so any small hiccup in any market or area, is going to have an impact on that number. Also, you got to remember there's these other outside events going on, tariffs and the like, that are rippling through Canadian lumber and these other things. So there's probably a reason for just the builders to slow down and have a pause to figure out, right, make sure they're still going to be profitable when all is said and done. So again, lots of external factors going on. What I saw, I think is yesterday, is buyers revolt in LA. Again, LA be one of those tier one markets, lots of people, very expensive. And I've said for quite a while that eventually it has to happen, right? Trees don't grow to heavens, and incomes aren't keeping pace with price increases, and payments are going up like I just talked about. So saying no to a purchase is frankly a good decision. And that's what needs to happen when the seller's market and prices get out of hand. Buyers should, quote unquote, revolt or stop looking, right? Because that's just what's supposed to happen. Another one I saw is buyers disappear in the Bay Area. I live in the Bay Area, as most of you know, and I've thought for quite a while that this market is, I'll just call it insane for owner occupants. You constantly hear of listings being listed at one number and going for 30 or 40% above that number after 12 best and finals or whatever. It's just not sustainable. And again, I think it's saying no to a owner occupant and just renting is frankly a wise business move for most folks, in my opinion. So let's talk about emotions in real estate, right? I think you got to remember a couple of things. Real estate is perhaps one of the most emotional purchases you'll ever make, especially if it's an owner occupant, right? It's a long-term commitment. It's likely going to be the most expensive thing you've ever purchased. It's going to be financed forever. There's huge interest rate charge, huge down payments. It's just emotional. You're thinking about your kids and where you're going to retire, and just all these factors that go into it. So when you think about that, know that all the buyers out there, and frankly sellers as well, they're people, right? So if the headlines go negative and they are sensing that, oh my God, they're going to be the last person at the party, and they're going to buy at the peak, and all of those things, um, they'll just go on hold for a couple months and see what happens, right? And I think if the headlines sort of continue on this trend, that's what's going to happen. Is you get a couple of articles talking about buyers in the Bay Area and LA, and I'm sure it's happening elsewhere. And pretty soon, those buyers that were thinking about looking in, August or September, they're going to go, you know what, maybe we'll wait for the new year, and we'll rent for 3 or 4 more months, honey. It's let's not rush into anything. So just these first couple of articles could cause a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what that will mean is that the buyers will disappear, right? They won't buy, and we'll finally start to get ticks up in inventory. And that's, again, not a bad thing to have a more balanced market. A couple of other things to realize. I wanted to say 100%, but that's probably not accurate. So I bid 99.9% of all the articles I've read on real estate, specifically when they're talking about markets or talking in aggregate. They're really talking about owner occupants, right? And if you're following this channel, hence the one rental at a time, that's not really your playing, right? You're not playing in the owner occupant market. So read them with a grain of salt, realize what's going on, but realize they're not talking about your market, right? You're buying a rental a year, 2 rentals a year, whatever it is, and your job is to make sure that you're not, as that last bullet says, buying an alligator property that's consuming cash. And as long as you're doing that, you have the ability to hold. So just realize that. And it's not quite 99.9%, but I did 99% here of the headlines will be about big cities, right? I call them the bubble cities, right? The LAs, the Orange counties, the Bay Area, just the markets that typically go up the highest and down the farthest when stuff happens. So we all know where they are, and it's because there's lots of people there, and the headlines are scary, and they're big numbers, a couple of commas and all those things. Again, it's just it just gets people's attention, and hence they talk about these big numbers. Again, realizing that you live where you want, but invest where the numbers make sense. Most of us aren't investing, and I hope none of the people that are following me are investing in these bubble cities, because that's impossible to do unless you're putting 70% down to make them cash flow. So we're investing in second tier cities, if you will, somewhere where a family of 4 making 60 grand a year can live comfortably. You don't have to be some high tech this or that with millions of dollars in RSUs to live in, right? That's not normal. And so don't invest in those markets. Invest where live where you want, wherever that is, but invest where the numbers make sense. And again, if you're following my strategy, you're never buying or even creating an alligator property. Again, in reference to what an alligator is, that's one where you buy it and you have to feed it every month, right? I have to pay the $100 a month for the sheer joy of having a rental property. Never do that. Rental properties already have enough bad things that can happen. You do not need to guarantee a bad month every month for the next 30 years. That's just dumb. Don't do that. But what that means when you don't buy alligators is you just hold out the change in market, and you just keep moving along. And your net worth on a spreadsheet may go down a little bit, but who cares? That's not what you're doing this for, right? You're doing this for cash flow. So just remember that. So here's how you can use the trend. If this truly is a trend change, and what I mean by that is going from a seller's market to a buyer's market. I'm not convinced it is, right? The data is not enough, right? We have a couple of points and you need more to call that, but I thought it was prevalent enough the last couple of days to at least talk about it. First thing I think is going to happen is there's a lot of people that purchased before the last bubble that held all the way down and then held all the way up. I think those people are going to look to sell, right? That was a 15 or 20 year, roller coaster ride, and they're going to want out, right? They're going to go, okay, great, we got to the top again, and I'm not riding all the way down. So I expect some long-term holders to sell, and they're going to have plenty of equity. They're going to be a little bit flexible on the price, and they're just going to want out. The other thing you're going to need to watch out for is listings are going to start to change if we truly go from a seller's to buyer's market. Some sellers have more motivation than others. And when you can find a motivated seller, typically that's a good thing, right? They want out, as opposed to someone that goes, if it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, don't care. They're not going to be as motivated. So when you can find a motivated seller, your opportunities for making a profitable transaction increase. The other thing that that should go, we shouldn't ignore is rental rates, right? If we are truly changing and buyers are going to revolt and step out of the market, it could be a year to 18 months before it goes back to more of a buyer's market and or a seller's market. And if that's true, we're going to see rental rates stabilize and increase as well. Next, as the trend sort of grows and goes forward, I think a lot of us probably over the last couple of years got used to making offering at list price. Some of you probably have gotten used to asking or offering 5% over asking. If this trend takes off, I would suggest starting with 5% or more below asking. Right, that's you start to have the power, the buyer, as the market changes. And then lastly, don't let owner-occupant headlines impact your one rental at a time mindset. The last thing you need to do in a market that's changing is just stop. If you're only buying in sellers markets and you're not taking advantage of buyers markets, you're missing out on most of your long-term profit. Right, sellers markets are hard. It takes time. Buyers markets aren't as hard, right? You just need to be good at spotting, stress, and taking advantage of that. So if this trend does get going, I suggest being more aggressive, not less, and really looking at getting after this. Need a favor. We're stuck at 102 subscribers. So if you like the content, you like this discussion, do me a favor, hit the like button, share this on your social media channels. We got to get this subscriber number up. I have a goal of 1,000 that I set many months ago, and we're 5 months away from the end of the year, so I have some work to do. Also, do me a favor and send a comment below on some content that you would like to see. Maybe the content isn't resonating with the folks out there, and I need to do a better job. All right, have a great day.